And it was a very successful discussions that they had. You had individuals like Doug Ford, a progressive conservative in Ontario, working along with Wab Kinew, a New Democrat from Manitoba, different premiers, different political parties, working with a Liberal national government, building a Team Canada approach at building a stronger and healthier country. I'm grateful that the Conservatives saw the light to support Bill C-5, and we appreciate that. And I'm wondering if the member can provide her thoughts in regards to having a Team Canada approach at building these projects, which include the stakeholders and beyond, Indigenous concerns, Premier's concerns, and many others.
Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Well, Conservatives will not stand in the way of the Liberals' sudden and often diametrically opposed to the 10 years of their own words and actions efforts to get Canada working and building, as Conservatives have called on them to do the entire time. We're hopeful, but we do remain skeptical that Bill C-5 can fully solve the problem of the current broken federal regulatory mess that the Liberals made. We believe in reconciliation and know that Indigenous people want to pursue equity ownership and more powers of development, self-determination with their own rights and title. But that's why the government should heed the words of the various chiefs who participated and of the AFN national chief, who cautioned that because of the lack of clarity around the duty to consult in Bill C-5, which Conservatives tried to fix, all approvals out of this may face course challenges, which will delay building. The Liberals need to fix that.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. Le député.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask my colleague from Lakeland a question. Well, first of all, the Conservatives, they supported closure, which is something that is stupid and unreasonable. We also understand that at the environmental level there are some issues, but at report stage, I want to note something where the member played an important role. We took out of Annex 2 the Indian Act. So the ability for the government to ignore the Indian Act and take away fundamental rights. And listen, we would have liked to have seen the bill talk about the free and informed, consent priority, but a major step was taken in committee, which is recognized by Indigenous people. So I thank my colleague from the Conservative Party for her collaboration on that. But what does she think about the fact that Liberals didn't vote in favor of that amendment?
Member for Lakeland.
Well, I think it betrays the lie that they have been peddling for 10 years, which is that the most important relationship to them is with Indigenous people. Yet they have a track record of killing major resource projects and pipelines that Indigenous people worked years and years to negotiate in a good way with big companies to secure their own source revenue for self-sufficiency and self-reliance. There are big questions about how on earth the Liberals could try to bring in this law that exempted 16 different acts and 6 different policies, including the Indian Act. So I appreciate the colleague's comments. I thank him for his collaboration. And this is the major issue that these Liberals must get right. Otherwise, they risk and threaten getting to yes in a good way, which every single Canadian and Indigenous person in this country deserves.
Comments, questions et commentaires. The member for Cariboo Prince George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I truly appreciate our honourable colleague here. Now, this is a little bit out of her scope of the file, but the Liberals really missed a key opportunity with this piece of legislation. Over 7 million Canadians are without a primary care physician. We're in a mental health crisis within our country, and they could have very easily included provisions, a Blue Seal program within this bill. So through you, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to hear our honourable colleagues' comments.
Member for Lakeland.
That's a very good point to my honourable colleague. And this is part of the concern we have with the government bringing forward a bill where it's trying to fix the mess that it itself made. But, maybe I'll just take this opportunity to acknowledge that colleague for all of his passionate, dedicated, steadfast advocacy for health, for mental health, for wellness, for men, for all Canadians, and congratulations in his successful passage of the 988 line, which is a lifeline for vulnerable and at-risk Canadians. Congratulations to him. We're so proud to have him on our team.
Reprise de débat, resuming debate. Le député.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we are point of order, member for Northumberland Clark. Sorry.
Should be a little quicker. Mr. Speaker, I'm rising on a point of order with respect to the upcoming votes at report stage on Bill C5. Page 788 of the House of Commons Practice and Procedure, 3rd edition states, and I quote, "When the Speaker selects the group's motions in amendment, he or she decides on how they will be grouped for voting. That is, the Speaker determines the order in which the motions in an amendment will be called and the effect of one vote on the others. The purpose of the voting scheme is to obviate any requirement for 2 or more votes on the same issue. The Speaker delivers his or her decision regarding the grouping of motions in amendment after the order for the consideration of report stage of the bill has been read. The Speaker informs the House of the motions in the amendment that he or she has selected and grouped for debate. The voting arrangements and, where applicable, the motions in the amendment have not been selected, stating the reasons for this. Speakers have sometimes intervened at a later stage of debate to revise their selection and grouping for debate of motions in the amendment. It is with respect to this latter point I am now rising. Specifically, Mr. Speaker, you have grouped motions 18 and 19. Motion 18, sponsored by my Bloc Québécois colleague, would seek to add the Canadian Labour Code to the list of laws which are carved out from the scope of sections 21 and 22, the proposed Building Canada Act, the so-called Henry VIII clauses in the bill. Motion 19, sponsored by the Green member, would seek to add the species at risk to that same list. One concerns workers' rights, the other environmental in nature. These are, I would suspect, very distinct policy fields and merit separate votes. Moreover, on procedural grounds, I would note that the Species at Risk Act is already listed in Building Canada's Act proposed Schedule 2. The member for Saanich Gulf Islands had proposed a companion amendment in motion number 26, which would have removed it from the list, but this motion was not selected for debate today. That means the substantive effect of the motion concerning the Canada Labour Code, if adopted, would be that this law may never be added to Schedule 2. On the other hand, the combined effect of the rulings on motions 19 and 26, that motion number 19 respecting the species of risk, would, again, if adopted, be that this law not be added back to Schedule 2, and should it ever be removed by the Government and Council at some point in the future. In summary, Mr. Speaker, motions number 18 and 19 are 2 separate motions proposed by members from 2 separate parties concerning 2 very different subject matters and with 2 different procedural implications. In other words, separate votes on motions 18 and 19 would amount to 2 votes on the same issue. Accordingly, Accordingly, I would respectfully submit that this is a textbook instance for the Chair to exercise authority described in Boskin-Gagnon to revisit and revise the voting pattern established for the report stage of Bill C5. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the member for that additional contribution. I will take it under advisement. J'ai la députée de Côte-Nord, Cowichan.
The member for Côte-Nord, who is rising on a point of order. Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's for a point of order. I would like to thank my colleague from Northumberland Clark, still getting used to the new riding names, for his point of order. And in the same vein, I agree with the intervention that he has just made in the House, because if you look at the 2 amendments, which are grouped together, one of which I myself tabled, well, the nature of the proposals are different, so it could very well be that we might want to vote in favor of one and refuse the other. And so, as the member so well expressed, the Canada Labour Code, for example, might not be affected as we'd like. So I would also ask that those 2 amendments be split so there could be distinct votes on those 2 amendments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member once again for her additional contribution to this issue. We will take that under advisement. I will now return to the honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères, and I will have to let him know that I'll need to interrupt him for statements by members in question period in about 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, as I said, Today is the last day that we'll be sitting before the summer. And usually on the last day of sitting before the summer, everyone is smiling. We're in a good mood. There's backslapping. But today I would say that that's not really the case. It's not really the case because we are ending on closure on Bill C5. We're ending on closure on a bill that, does not have a consensus behind it, that we've barely had any time to study in the House or in committee, and closure was imposed even before we started debating Bill C5, Mr. Speaker. And normally when you come out of a committee, well, when there's been some collaboration between the parties, sometimes a bill has been amended enough that it's become good, or at least if it's not good, well, it's acceptable. We're able to live with it. Because generally, we try, in priority, to get rid of most of the irritants or the worst parts of a bill by saying, listen, at least we've done what we can. But I would say that no, not this time. That hasn't happened. This time, we're not in a good mood. We're not happy, Mr. Speaker, neither about the bill nor about the work that was done in committee, because we didn't have the time to do proper work. And it's really sad, because usually when there's closure when the bill has been stuck for months, when things aren't moving, when there's filibustering. But this time, we didn't even have time for filibustering. It didn't have time to stagnate because we didn't have time to discuss the bill, to debate it. It's sad because, Mr. Speaker, we brought forward an amendment regarding the government's closure motion, which would have allowed us to have more hours of study in committee. Tuesday this week, instead of having just 2 hours, we could have had 14 hours of time in committee. That would have let a larger number of witnesses testify. And, it appears that there were negotiations at the last minute. We thought they was going to go forward, but there was bargaining between the government and the Conservatives in the back rooms, and that didn't happen in the end. So the next morning, people who had been called by the clerk were told, no, at the end of the day, no, you're not going to be able to appear today. People who had taken leave from their work, people who had planned to, spend hours traveling or had started traveling, people who might have flown in, Mr. Speaker, and finally they were told, no, you're not going to be able to testify. What do you think of that, Mr. Speaker? I know you can't answer, but it doesn't make any sense. It's really absolutely, disgusting treatment for those people. They were treated with disrespect. We had a lot of witnesses from environmental groups who would have liked to have spoken to Bill C5. We had no witnesses from any environmental groups who were able to speak to Bill C5 because the Bloc Québécois only had the right to 2 witnesses for the entire study of the bill, Mr. Speaker. 2 witnesses. That's just absolutely absurd. Over 60% of the witnesses that we submitted who, should have testified were told, no, sorry, you can't come, after they'd been called by the clerk to come and appear. That's just incredible treatment, Mr. Speaker. It's really a denial of democracy. It's shameful that that's been what's happened. What the government wanted to do was shut down those voices. They didn't want to give them airtime. We didn't want to hear them. The government didn't want to hear criticism. That's how this government works. And what's worse, when the witnesses appeared before committee, Mr. Speaker, it was too late for amendments. So whatever the witnesses had to say, we couldn't listen to them and integrate their commentary into the bill, Mr. Speaker. It just made absolutely zero sense. I mean, it's just shameful treatment, Mr. Speaker. And I hope that Quebecers will remember this, and I hope Canadians will remember this. I know that First Nations will remember this. I know that environmental groups are going to remember this. And I also know that French language communities outside of Quebec are going to remember this. I know that there are a lot of Quebecois and a lot of unionists who are going to remember this, because the government has decided to give itself 100% of the power without listening to criticism, without respecting democracy. That's dangerous. That's serious. And the worst, Mr. Speaker, is that the Conservatives have supported the government in this. That's the worst in all of this. But even worse than that, Mr. Speaker, is that all the amendments that were moved in committee, the Liberals, there's not a single one who voted in favor of any of them. Not one. They didn't want to hear anything. They'd already decided on everything. They were masters. And, okay, we need to interrupt the honourable member for statements by members.
The member for Don Valley North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As they say, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. And last week, I had the pleasure of attending the annual tree giveaway held by the Bayview Village Association. Each year, the BVA offers residents trees and shrubs that are native to Toronto and suited for our urban environment, and they hold a workshop on how to properly plant them. I advise the House of this great community effort because trees reduce flooding and erosion, provide shade, and decrease heating and cooling costs, and clean the air. I want to take this occasion to thank the Bayview Village Association, acknowledge the natural care and strong community spirits that exist in the BVA. I commend the team of volunteers involved for helping us breathe a little easier. As you see, Mr. Speaker, in my writing, it's not just trees that are growing, it's the community spirit. Thank you.
The member for Brandon Souris.
Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to two exceptional constituents of Brandon Souris. Last Saturday, Souris residents Murray Zook and the late Bill Kirkup were inducted as honorary life members into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame. Murray Zook helped found the Hall of Fame and Museum, serving as a director since its inception in 1997 with a significant career as a baseball scout and organizer in Manitoba, all while maintaining a remarkable career as principal of Souris School. The late Bill Kirkup was a builder and loved the game of baseball. He committed countless hours to promote teams and various leagues throughout Manitoba and Western Canada, in addition to supporting countless other initiatives and causes in our community. If there was a project to get done in Souris, it was very likely that Bill Kirkup was involved. To Murray, his wife Donnie, and the Zook family, and to Bill's wife Sheila and the Kirkup family, thank you both for a lifetime of service to the great game of baseball, to our hometown of Souris, and to Manitoba. We are certainly better off because of the lives of Murray Zook and the late Bill Kirkup.
The member for New Westminster, Burnaby, Maillardville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to thank the residents of New Westminster, Burnaby, Maillardville for placing their trust in me. I ran on a platform prioritizing mental health, and I'm proud to bring that voice into Parliament. New Westminster is known as the Recovery City, and one organization living that vision is Dan's Legacy, a local charity supporting at-risk youth through counseling, housing, food security, and job training. Their new initiative, Dan's Diner, trains youth to run a restaurant while learning essential life skills. While harm reduction saves lives, Dan's Legacy focuses on harm prevention, instigating early. Last year, they helped over 800 youth avoid homelessness and addiction. C'est une modèle inspirante de résilience.
It's an inspiring model of resiliency.
Takes on the work ahead. I'll continue advocating for community-based mental health care so every young person can thrive. Merci, Monsieur Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
How many women have to be beaten half to death before this government stops giving repeat offenders a free pass? Hugh Mason is 34 years old with a violent history that reads like a warning label. Assault with a weapon, uttering threats, resisting arrest, theft, breaching probation. Over and over again. In just 3 years, he's been hauled into court and released 37 times. And now he's on video shoving a woman into the street, brutally kicking and punching her as she crawls away for her life. Unreal. That happened last week just a few kilometers from my home in Langley. I walk those streets. My kids and grandkids walk those streets. And it's happening because this government is protecting violent criminals rather than innocent Canadians. Why won't this Liberal government fix the broken bail system and stop putting dangerous predators back on the streets?
The honourable member for Sherbrooke. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 50 years ago, on June 20th, 1975, the song Gens du Pays by the legendary Gilles Vigneault was performed for the very first time at Mount Royal in Montreal. On stage, three giants of Quebec music, Gilles Vigneault, Louise Forestier, and Yvon Deschamps, sang the now famous lyrics that ring out not only on our national holiday, but also on our birthdays. Gens du Pays is one of the greatest gifts to French language music. It is a classic, the anthem of Quebecers, and a testament to our collective memory. This year, our national holiday will be an opportunity to pay tribute to this iconic song. The singer from Natashquan, Mr. Vigneault, will be proud to hear his words, which bind us together and bring us together, sung throughout Quebec. Thank you, Mr. Vigneault, for leaving such a profound mark on our culture. Happy National Holiday to everyone.
For Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Canada Day may still be a couple of weeks away, but the students of East Elgin Secondary School are already putting their pride in our great country on display. Over 30 grade 10 art students, led by teachers Robert Ponzio and Amy Sawyers, have spent months crafting a magnificent 16-foot by 20-foot mural, a Canadian flag made up of self-portraits from each of the young artists. The masterpiece is called On Guard for Thee. It's a vibrant and patriotic expression of the community's diversity and Canadian identity. The project was supported by the Royal Canadian Legion branches in Port Burwell and Elmer, and some of the community's veterans have already had a chance to take it in. Those who have served and helped build our country get to see the spirit of Canada alive in the next generation. The mural has already been showcased at the Elmer Legion and will soon be presented at the Old Imperial Market. The teachers and students hope to bring their work of art to the provincial capital and eventually on to Ottawa to share their love of Canada with as many people as possible. Congratulations to all the artists, and go Eagles.
The Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
Yesterday, a devastating rock slide on the Banff Icefield Parkway near Bow Glacier Falls resulted in the loss of a life and injured many. My heartfelt condolences to the family who lost their loved one, and I'm wishing a speedy recovery to all those who were injured. We are grateful for the heroic efforts of our first responders, including Parks Canada staff, local firefighters, RCMP, Alberta Health Services, and STARS Air Ambulance, for their swift and courageous efforts to provide emergency care and ensure public safety under difficult circumstances. This is a stark reminder of the unpredictable power of nature, even in places we cherish most for their beauty and tranquility. Emergencies like this highlight the need to improve our cellular and communication service in remote areas. For all those planning to visit our beautiful parks this summer, please plan ahead and stay safe.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Miigwech. Tomorrow, on June 21st, we will celebrate National Indigenous Peoples Day. Let us draw inspiration from the summer solstice and celebrate the cultures, language, and contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from time immemorial to the present day, and especially tomorrow. It's also an opportunity to build relationships and talk about mutual respect. This conversation was sidetracked in Bill C-5, a bill designed to impose energy projects on Indigenous peoples from Ottawa, then inform them of irreversible decisions through bogus consultations. In C-5, the Liberals have replicated the condescending and colonialist relationship that the federal government had with First Nations in the last century. And today we'll find out whether the Bloc's amendment will make it possible to correct the course at the last minute, because we removed the Indian Act from this bill, but C-5 illustrates how important it is for Indigenous peoples and also for all Quebecers and Canadians. The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the school year comes to a close, I rise to congratulate the 2025 graduates of Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester. Graduating is a moment of great pride. These students worked so hard and overcame challenges and showed resilience. Today, you're celebrating much more than a diploma. You're celebrating your hard work, growth, and discoveries that have brought you here, and it's just a beginning of a new chapter. Whether you're entering the workforce, continuing your education, or exploring new horizons, know that the future holds great things for you. Allow me also to mention with great pride that my daughter is also among this year's graduates at Samuel Jeunesse School. Congratulations, Isabel, and congratulations to all of you, to all the families, teachers, and support staff who have supported you, and to the graduates, your journey is just beginning. Congratulations to the class of 2025.
Mr. Speaker, last week, BC Ferries announced that they will purchase 4 new full-sized ferries from a Chinese Communist Party state-owned shipyard rather than a Canadian shipyard. Indeed, our shipyards cannot compete with China's cheap labour, lower safety standards, and poor environmental regulations. Canadian union workers, industries, and shipyards all feel betrayed. The Minister of Transport stated that this is not a federal issue, despite the Liberals subsidizing BC Ferries to the tune of $36 million a year. The fact remains that hundreds of millions of dollars will be sent to a Chinese state-controlled shipyard supporting their economy and their workers. Earlier this week, the Minister of Transport stated that she shared her concerns and sent a letter to BC. Will the Minister of Transport please share specifically who she sent the letter to in BC? Will she make the letter public for all to see? And will the Minister of Transport withhold the $36 million subsidies unless BC government puts Canada first and invests in Canadian shipyards? Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with a heavy heart to honour the life of former Whitby Mayor Des Newman, who passed away last week. On behalf of the people of Whitby, I want to pay tribute to a man whose love for his community was evident in everything that he did. Des was a builder, not just of roads and rec centres, but of relationships, of trust, and of community spirit. He helped bring people together, helped bring the town and the township of Whitby together, laid the foundation for the region of Durham, and was instrumental in creating places that we treasure today. Iroquois Park Sports Centre, Lakeridge Health Whitby, and the Station Gallery, to name just a few. But what I remember most is his warmth. When I was first elected, Des welcomed me like an old friend, generous with his stories, wise in his counsel, and always encouraging. To his family and loved ones across Whitby and Durham region, thank you for sharing him with us. Rest in peace, Des, my friend.
The member for Kapuskasing Timmins.
Mr. Speaker, home building must nearly double over the next decade to restore affordability. Up to 4.8 million new homes are needed to close the supply gap that has led to higher home prices. Now that is 480,000 new housing units a year to close the supply gap. The Liberals' own housing agency says Canada needs to double construction to restore affordability. Housing starts continue to drop. Guelph down 78%, London 72%, Toronto 58%, Hamilton 50%. These are alarming numbers, even after these 5 communities have received $774 million from the Housing Accelerator Fund. Where is the accountability?
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Marais. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to invite people who are listening to us and all of you colleagues to come to my very beautiful riding this summer. Next week, we'll be celebrating Quebec's national holiday in the city of Saint-Eustache and also Bois-Briand. We will have many concerts, and on July 1st, we'll be celebrating in Two Mountains our national holiday. Well, there'll be other activities as well with families and concerts. This summer, you can also have fun on our river at the park of the Rivière-des-Marais. You can rent canoes and kayaks, paddleboards, and go visit several islands, have a picnic, and visit all the 4 cities in my riding. So you're all welcome. I wish you all a good summer. Please rest up, enjoy the sun, and come back here in great shape in September. Have a lovely summer.
The member for Central Newfoundland.
This Prime Minister's 4 weeks in Parliament were filled with broken Liberal promises. Broken promise on spending, broken promise on tax cut, broken promise on consultants, broken promise on defence, broken promise on elbows up with the US. Mr. Speaker, Canada's fiscal watchdog confirms a massive broken Liberal promise, their so-called tax cut. The Parliamentary Budget Officer reports that the average Canadian will save just $90 this year, less than $7.50 a month, Mr. Speaker. That's barely enough to buy a cup of coffee. Low-income seniors will see even less, only $50 a year, under $5 a month. That's not relief, that's an insult. It's one thing for Liberals to promise relief, but another to deliver pennies while families struggle. Canadians are concerned, and rightly so. They deserve a government that keeps their word and respect their wallet. Conservatives will deliver real tax relief for everyone for good.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, it's with immense pride that Trois-Rivières will host the finals of the 59th Quebec Games this summer, from July 25th to August 2nd. It will bring together more than 3,500 young athletes aged 12 to 17 from 19 regions across Quebec. This exceptional event, featuring 18 sports, celebrates not only athletic excellence, but also the passion and commitment of our volunteers and the entire community. And the success always depends on the invaluable dedication of volunteers who work tirelessly to provide athletes with an optimal environment to allow them to achieve their own personal growth. I therefore invite you to come to Trois-Rivières to cheer on these talented young people, share their energy, and make this week an unforgettable memory for our community. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for Calgary Heritage.
The Prime Minister's 4 weeks in Parliament were filled with broken Liberal promises. Broken promises on spending, broken promises on the tax cut, broken promises on defense, broken promises on elbows up with the United States. The Prime Minister promised $800 in savings, a savings bonanza. Instead, the average Canadian only gets $90 this year. So did the Prime Minister mislead Canadians during the election? Is he misleading them now, or both?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, tax cut for 22 million Canadians by July 1st. Check. GST off of homes for first-time home buyers. Check. Government fully funded. The supply bills are passed off to the Senate. Check. Defense spending, 2% of GDP. Check. And today, Mr. Speaker, and I invite the honourable member to join us, the bill to build Canada strong, the bill to build jobs in this country, create opportunity right across this land. Check, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Heritage.
Listen, if their math are like their promises, we're in serious trouble. They promised to put more money in Canadians' pockets. It isn't $800 a year. It's $7 a month. Broken. Promised to rein in government spending. $26 billion in consultants. $1,400 in taxes for every Canadian household. Broken. He's promised to rein in inflation. Beef's up 34%. Baby formula up 9%. Apples up 18%. Broken. So was the Prime Minister misleading us in the campaign? Is he misleading us now, or both?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, at a time when Canadians are struggling, when we're fighting a trade war with one of our greatest traditionally allies, we have offered 22 million Canadians an income tax cut that's going to put more money in their pockets. What do the Conservatives do? Well, we're glad for once that they actually voted for that tax cut, which is fantastic. We know that they have a history of complaining in this House about affordability and then voting against every single measure that we put forward. At least finally they came to their senses and helped Canadians for once.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
It's been over 100 days, and this Prime Minister still hasn't set up an ethics screen to deal with his business interests. Just imagine a local school board trustee voting for a multi-million-dollar contract going to his business partner to build a school without telling anyone he's going to profit from it. Canadians would be outraged, and they should be. When will this Prime Minister show some basic ethics and stop treating public office like a private opportunity?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has a record of achievement in 100 days that would make anyone around the world blush. We've reduced taxes. We're creating opportunities for Canadians. We've committed to pass a bill by July 1st that is on track to getting done. This Prime Minister has also proactively filed all disclosures required under the most stringent code of ethics that exists almost anywhere in the world. Of course, the Prime Minister will meet his requirements under that code and will keep delivering for Canadians.
The member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
This Prime Minister just voted to ban gas-powered vehicles, adding up to $20,000 to the cost of a new car. Families are already drowning in bills, and now he's making it even harder to get to work or drop off the kids. Is it just a coincidence that Brookfield stands to profit off this mandate? And when will this Prime Minister stop treating public money like his personal investment portfolio and finally be transparent about the deals he stands to benefit from?
Yes. Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. This is the first time I rise to answer a question. I thank the honourable member for asking my first question. And I ran because I wanted to fight for jobs in this country, and I wanted to fight to protect the climate in this country for my children and my children's children. That's why we have building an electrical vehicle supply chain that is driving record investment in this economy that's going to protect our workers, not today, not tomorrow, but 7 generations ahead. And I'm thankful I'm on this side, and I look to you to look to the other side to work with us.
Le député de Montmorency.
The honourable member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, this is the last day in the House before Parliament shuts down for the summer, and the record is terrible. 4 weeks of broken promises by the Liberal government on spending, on tax cuts, on consultants, on national defence, and on our U.S. relations. The PBO says that the tax cuts are not going to be $800, but only $90. Why are the Liberals misleading Canadians? The Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, one thing's clear. The government is acting and acting swiftly. In less than 100 days, we've been able to do more than many previous governments. A tax cut for 22 million Canadians, the exemption on the GST for first-time home buyers, and of course, which the opposition, if they support us, a bill that is fundamental to support our workers, support our industries because of the trade war. And I hope that the opposition will be there to support it. The honourable member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, with my little experience in the House, what I do see is that the government likes to play smoke and mirrors. They promised to save $800 for Canadian families, but that was a broken promise because it's up to $800, not $800. It's all a matter of interpretation, apparently. But it would be good to have a budget. Will the Prime Minister finally take his responsibility seriously and table a budget? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, one thing is clear. Canadians know that we are there for them during this trade war, for our steel and aluminum workers, for our auto workers, for Canadians all across the country, because we know we have a role to play. And 22 million Canadians will benefit from a tax cut, and we will also be there to see to it that our country is built at a time when it's under attack. The honourable member for Côte-Nord. Mr. Speaker, the CSN adds its voice to the opposition to C5 and the imposition of energy projects on Quebecers. According to the CSN, the use of closure to pass C5, an anti-democratic maneuver supported by the Conservatives, opens the door to irreversible mistakes. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to repeat the question word for word, the question that troubles the CSN. If C5 is so good for workers, why not take the time to study it? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, Canada is facing a number of challenges, and above all, the trade war with the U.S., started by the U.S. What workers are telling me, and the unions are telling me, is that we need to take action. We need to quickly start building major national projects which will not only create jobs, but will also ensure that Quebec prospers not just today, but tomorrow and the decades to come. That's what we're doing with this bill. The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord. Mr. Speaker, the CSN joins its voice to the AFN. It even joins its voice to that of a few Liberals who, no doubt, prefer to remain silent. This bill allows environmental measures to be bypassed and allows almost all laws to be suspended by order in council. It's the most authoritarian bill since the Emergencies Act. Will the ministers who disagree have the courage to oppose this bill before it's too late? The Minister of Indigenous Services. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to stand on this side of the House to ensure that the process of reconciliation will be put in action because we're working in partnership with Indigenous peoples here in Canada. They will be engaged in a process that will be clear, serious, and determined by First Nations themselves. We are very open to giving everyone a seat at the table, and only this government can do that. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, after the CSN, the AFN, and even some Liberals, environmental groups are joining the ranks of those opposed to C5. Équiterre, Climate Action Network, Eco-Justice, the list goes on. To quote Greenpeace, Bill C5 would allow many environmental protections to be bypassed, silence communities, and trample the rights of Indigenous people in order to force through projects that will benefit multinational corporations. Mr. Speaker, everyone's saying the same thing to the Liberals. Study Bill 5 properly instead of forcing it through under closure. Will they finally listen? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, Canada is proud to be a leader when it comes to respecting environmental standards. We know and we can undertake important major national projects that will create jobs and opportunities without sacrificing our values, our environmental values, and our processes. But the fact is, Mr. Speaker, that it's time to take action, economic action. Things need to be sped up. We have to stop relying on overly long processes. It's time to speed things up and get things done.
The Prime Minister's first 4 weeks have been filled with broken promises on spending, consultants, defense spending, and relations with the U.S. Now the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirms that another broken promise, this time on tax cuts. He advises us that the average Canadian will save only $7.50 a month, and low-income seniors will save even less, under $5 a month, under the Liberal proposals. Perhaps it isn't a surprise the Prime Minister won't table a budget this spring because so much of what he's saying now is so different from what he said during the election. So I'm curious, did the Prime Minister deliberately mislead Canadians during the election? Is he misleading them now, or is it both?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our government received a strong mandate from the Canadian people to build Canada strong. What have we done in just 4 weeks? We've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We've helped secure our borders. We're breaking down internal trade barriers. We're fast-tracking major nation-building projects, and we've strengthened our ability to defend ourselves. That, to me, is strong leadership for a strong and independent Canada. While Conservatives bash, we will build. We'll continue to build with Canadians all across this great country. That's how you make the best country in the world even better.
Honourable Member for Lanark Frontenac.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is a broken record of broken promises, and the list keeps on growing. Broken promises on spending, and we still don't have a budget plan. Broken promises on consultants and also on consulting with Canadians. Broken promises to have his elbows up with the Americans, but instead what the Prime Minister has lifted is his middle finger to Canadians on affordability, inflation, and Liberal policies. Canadians need real change from the Prime Minister, not pocket change in tax cuts, not broken promises, not false hopes. Will the Prime Minister table a real budget plan this spring, or will he not?
Full Government House.
Mr. Speaker, that member is a member of long standing, and I don't even think he believes the stuff that he was handed to me.
I agree completely.
The fact is that this is a transformational Prime Minister in a new government who is will be presenting a budget this fall, but has already delivered a spending program that was passed by this House, has already delivered a tax cut for 22 million Canadians that will save families up to $840 a year, and has reduced and taken off the GST on homes for first-time buyers, Mr. Speaker. That's progress.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
What the member just said is just completely misleading to the Canadian public. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has said this big tax cut is actually going to deliver $15 a month. That's not transformational. That's not going to build anything. The average Canadian can buy a couple of coffees at Starbucks for $15 a month. So it's all talk, no action, realistically, from this government. The Prime Minister has broken 4 promises in 4 weeks of being the Prime Minister. That's not leadership. That's not transformational. That's misleading the Canadian public. So is misleading the Canadian public the new mantra for this, quote, new government?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, we are building the strongest economy in the G7. I'm not sure where the member opposite has been. We are cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We are permanently cutting the consumer carbon tax. We are cutting taxes for first-time homebuyers. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives, sadly, are still stuck in the past. It's time to get on board or get out of the way. Thank you.
That's right. The Honourable Member for Elmwood Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's first 4 weeks in Parliament were filled with broken promises, broken promise on spending, broken promise on tax cut, broken promise on consultants, broken promise on defence, broken promise on elbows up with the U.S. The Parliamentary Budget Officer found the Liberals' tax cut will only save Canadians $90 this year and $190 next year. That is $15 per month, or about 4 cans of tuna. Did the Prime Minister mislead Canadians during this election? Is he misleading them now, or both?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister announced a $9.3 billion investment in Canada's defence, which means we will achieve NATO's 2% target this fiscal year. This is not only an investment in our armed forces, but also an investment in good-paying jobs, in Canadian innovation, and in economic growth. Our generational investment in strengthening Canada's role as a strong, reliable international trading partner while rebuilding and rearming our forces here at home. It's unfortunate the Conservatives voted against it.
The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, according to recent reports, hundreds of American doctors wanting to work in our hospitals are, in their words, quote, stuck in bureaucratic hell. Instead of serving Canadians, American doctors are blocked from working because they're trapped in licensing logjam. Nearly 7 million Canadians don't have a family doctor, yet government gatekeepers are blocking qualified doctors from working in Canada. When will the Liberal Health Minister introduce our Conservative Blue Seal program to recognize the credentials of international doctors so Canadians can get the care they need?
Exactly. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague evidently read the article that was on the front pages of National Newswatch yesterday, but he didn't read it closely. Because what he would have seen if he did is that that issue is squarely in the provincial jurisdiction. We know that there are American doctors that are trying to come to Canada, leaving the United States. Of course, our healthcare system is in need of more doctors, but the issue is tangled in the bureaucracy in British Columbia. And so if he wants to bring matters to the House of Commons, that's very fine. It's a very good issue to raise, but the issue is misplaced. It's an issue of provincial jurisdiction.
La députée de Bellechasse-les-Sept-Chemins-Lévis.
The member for Bellechasse-les-Sept-Chemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the financial watchdog, an officer of the House, has confirmed another broken promise by the Liberals, their so-called tax cut. Contrary to the $850 promised by the Prime Minister, the average Canadian will only save $90 this year, and seniors will get a paltry $4 a month. Did the Prime Minister lie during the election campaign? Is he lying now, or both? Before recognizing the government House Leader, that word used in the House causes disorder. So I would ask the member to withdraw that term. Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker. I meant to say misled. I would replace it with misled. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the facts are very straightforward, very simple. For all those who pay income tax, i.e. 22 million Canadians, there will be a tax cut from 15 to 14% on the tax rate. That will save $840 maximum for Canadian families. For those who pay income tax, they can save up to $840. Promise made, promise kept. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse. Well, it's as if they're calling the PBO a liar. But anyway, The Prime Minister's first 4 weeks in Parliament have been full of broken promises on spending, taxes, consultants, defence, and even on relations with the US. Meanwhile, Canadians are paying 14% more for rice, 18% more for apples, and even 34% more for beef. Will the Prime Minister finally table a budget that truly cuts taxes and reverses his inflationary policies? The Government House Leader. I repeat, Mr. Speaker, 22 million, i.e., everyone who pays income tax will, as of July 1st, get a tax cut on their paychecks, on their pay stubs. It's a really good Canada Day gift. But the member opposite has opposed childcare places, dental care. She should focus on affordability and support us. The honourable member for Pierre Boucher des Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, C5 perfectly sums up the approach of the new Liberal Prime Minister. He wants to force pipelines on Quebec. He wants to do this by order in council without going through Parliament. And he wants to be able to bypass almost all laws, also by order in council, in order to help developers. And he's going to do this all through closure, without debate or witnesses, with the support of the Conservatives, while the 44 Quebec Liberals burrow into the woodwork. Do they realize that this was all vote buying? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I think it's important for the member to remember that we're in a trade war right now. Time is of the essence. There are aluminum workers in Quebec. And if he spoke to people in Ontario in the auto industry or in the steel industry, he would realize that time is of the essence. We need to take swift action. We need to work together to pass this bill so that we can build major infrastructure projects. And if he's still not convinced, he should talk to the Quebec Premier who supports this bill. The honourable member for Pierre Boucher des Patriotes Verchères. In just 4 weeks, the Liberals have shown their true colours. Those colours are Pierre Poilievre with a red tie. Many Quebecers voted Liberal to be protected from the Conservatives. Yet here we are with a government that wants to rule by order in council and force pipelines on Quebec with C5. A government that stole $814 million from Quebecers to buy votes from Canadians. All this in just 4 weeks. That's the true colours of the Liberals. Do they realize that for many Quebecers, this is a two-faced government? The Government House Leader. The Bloc is exaggerating so much, I think they're going to miss Saint Jean Baptiste. The fact is, time is of the essence. Urgent action was needed to respond to the trade war that was started by the U.S. And yes, there was an urgent need to respond to the provinces and other players like unions, investors, and so on. We needed to reduce the gap between Quebec and the rest of Canada. We needed to create jobs and opportunities, Mr. Speaker.
Nurse strangled unconscious. Vancouver police officers set on fire as they arrest a repeat offender. Victoria paramedic violently assaulted while attending an overdose call. Firefighter attacked with a machete while resuscitating an overdose victim. Manitoba nurse stabbed with a needle. Our first responders and healthcare workers are targeted, attacked, and face horrific abuse on a daily basis. And they're calling for bail reform. When will the Prime Minister end his failed drug policies and soft on crime laws and protect our frontline heroes?
Exactly. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
I want to thank the honourable member for his question. He's asked about this before. The fact is, fentanyl has torn through our communities and ripped through our families. And it is an incredibly serious issue, and I empathize with the people who've been lost. The fact is, we take this incredibly seriously. We're hiring 1,000 new RCMP officers, hiring 1,000 new CBSA officers to go after the bad guys and put them away.
Honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
They failed them for 10 years, and they're calling for bail reform. 10 years. 10 years, the Liberals have put criminals' rights before victims. Violent crime has surged 50% since 2015. The Liberals' reckless drug policies have turned our hospitals and our communities into war zones. Nurses, healthcare workers face horrific abuse every single shift, and first responders are assaulted and beaten while responding to calls for help. Violence is not part of their job description, and the responsibility lays squarely at the foot of this Prime Minister. He told Canadians he had a plan.
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand my colleague, and Canadians deserve to feel safe in their own communities, which is why we've committed to cracking down on repeat violent offenders even further in our platform. We will strengthen the criminal code and move aggressively to protect victims by making bail laws stricter for violent and organized crime, home invasion, car theft, and human trafficking. We were given a strong mandate, Mr. Speaker, from Canadians to be able to keep our communities safe, and that's exactly what we will do.
The Honourable Member for Regina, Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, last week alone, the Regina Police Service responded to 54 suspected overdoses, including 4 fatalities. According to multiple news reports, fentanyl is suspected in most, if not all, of these cases. The crisis has gotten so bad that the Provincial Ministry of Health has issued an overdose alert for Regina. When will these Liberals finally crack down on organized crime and their mass fentanyl production labs so we can finally get fentanyl off of our streets?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, fentanyl is causing destruction in our communities. C2 will toughen up the fight against fentanyl with significant steps to control precursor elements in the production of fentanyl. It will strengthen the police powers and the ability to search the mail. And we have also cracked down on terrorist entities. We'll always be there to protect Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, recently in my riding, friends and family of Lucas Lethbridge came together in memory of his tragic death due to overdose. I, for one, have lost more friends from addiction than any other cause. My question today comes directly from Lucas's father, and his question is, why, Mr. Speaker, does a fentanyl dealer selling cocaine secretly laced with fentanyl get to continue killing vulnerable Canadians in our communities rather than getting locked up for life?
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Well, first of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to portray my condolences to the honourable member and the people lost in his community. As I mentioned earlier, the fact is the global rise of fentanyl has ripped through our communities and our families and is completely unacceptable. And we've listed 7 cartels as terrorist entities under the criminal code. To combat that, we are hiring 1,000 new RCMP officers, 1,000 new CBSA officers to go after the bad guys and put them away.
The member for Colleton, Malhat Langford.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Attorney General stated the Liberals will bring forward multiple changes to their catch and release laws in the fall, effectively admitting C-75 is a failure. Yet the same day, the Secretary of State for Combating Crime blamed the provinces for releasing violent repeat offenders. 2 years ago, my own daughter watched as her boyfriend Johnny was murdered in Victoria, stabbed to death by a violent repeat offender who was out on bail for attempted murder not 3 weeks earlier. When will the Liberals protect Canadians like Johnny, actually take action, and cancel failed Bill C-75? Thank you.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I feel for the member's opposite situation. There are mandatory minimums when it comes to certain offences committed with firearms relating to some of the crimes. There are maximum amounts of sentences for repeated offenders of 7 years. Mr. Speaker, we take these issues very seriously, and we will be working towards reforms in the coming months. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Spadina, Harbourfront.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian steel and aluminum is the best in the world, and our workers in those vital industries are second to none. We know, however, that these vital sectors are facing very serious threats as a result of unjustified and illegal American tariffs. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance and National Revenue update this House on how the government is supporting our world-class steel and aluminum producers during these turbulent times?
Well, Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for Spadina Harbourfront for the great question. Canadian Steel and Aluminum is going to help build the strongest economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker, and while we continue to aim for a negotiated agreement with the United States, we are taking strong action to respond to the illegal and unjustified American tariffs to protect the integrity of our sectors. Yesterday, we announced targeted measures including adjusted counter tariffs, new tariff rate quotas, and a $10 billion large enterprise tariff loan facility. These measures will help our steel and aluminum.
Honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
This Liberal government's own housing agency has given up on the concept of housing affordability. They reported that Canada needs to build 480,000 homes a year to restore affordability, something the TD Bank says is impossible. Earlier this week, the latest housing minister boasted that he was on pace for 280,000 starts this year, and he plans for 500,000 a year. In the GTA and the Lower Mainland, the bulk of our housing market, starts have gone off a cliff. So the question is simple. If we are to take the minister at his word, where are the other 200,000 units coming from?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen, unlike everything that we're hearing from the other side of the House, we are working very hard. There is an action plan for affordability, which is at the heart of Build Canada Homes. We're going to build more social housing to support low and middle income families. We have the most ambitious plan in decades. We've committed to build twice as much housing, and we will do that with Canadian innovation, with Canadian labour, with Canadian materials. That is how we are building the Canada of tomorrow, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, it sounds like more bureaucracy. I'll give you an example of Ottawa bureaucracy. Here in this city of Ottawa, the federal government closed their training centre. 9 years later, they finally sold that training centre to their own federal housing developer at market price. Then it took the federal developer 5 years and 79 different reports at the city planning department to deal with the neighbours and the local Liberal MP who tried to block the redevelopment. Construction finally started. So 16 years for the federal government to turn their land using their developer into 1,100 desperately needed homes. Why does this government think that more bureaucracy is the solution?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Government Transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And our new government is committed to ensuring that federal procurement is conducted in an open, fair, and transparent manner. When it comes to the situation in question, Mr. Speaker, I would point to the investment that our government made most recently through the Housing Accelerator Fund here in the city of Ottawa. This is our commitment to work with municipalities to ensure that we get the housing built that we need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
Under this government's watch, the housing crisis has reached an unprecedented precipice, and no amount of recycled ministers will hide the fact that this Liberal government is responsible. The CMHC's own numbers have declared the death of housing affordability across this nation. And this government solution? Appoint a minister who, as Mayor of Vancouver, was responsible for one of the worst housing and affordability epidemics we have ever seen. Mr. Speaker, will they just simply stop talking about the housing crisis that exploded under their watch and actually do something about it?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There is a housing crisis. This is why the government is getting back in the business of building. This is why we will power innovation with modular, prefabricated home. We will do it by reducing red tape, by increasing efficiency and streamlining operation. We will do it at a very fast speed. This is what we promise Canadians, and this is what we will deliver. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington and Tyendinaga.
Mr. Speaker, the best time for action was now, not 10 years ago, now. Mr. Speaker, they have consistently realized that with responsibility comes an extraordinary amount of... I'm going to start this again. Whoa!
Already thinking about vacation.
Mr. Speaker, given the fact that this government agency said Canada needs to double down with construction to restore affordability, will this government get out of the way and recognize building would
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to invite the colleague to read the Liberal platform. We made major commitments to change government operations. We got to work right after the election, and the implementation of Build Canada Homes is going to facilitate and accelerate the construction of housing. That's what Canadians need. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Vernon Lake Country, Monashee.
Mr. Speaker, in communities across the North Okanagan, families are being pushed out of the housing market. Young people can't afford to buy, and seniors are being forced out of the communities that they themselves built. Meanwhile, this Liberal government still has no budget, no plan, no urgency. While young families and seniors are begging for the Liberals to get housing built, this Prime Minister, much like the last one, is more focused on political optics than shovels in the ground. When will this Liberal government stop dragging its feet, deliver a budget, and finally take responsibility for the housing crisis it helped create?
The Government House Leader.
Speaker, we came to office and the first thing we did was take the GST off of new homes for first-time home buyers. This government has proposed a series of measures beginning with the National Housing Strategy back in 2018. These measures have been measures, this member was not here, but they have opposed every single one, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's social housing, every single housing initiative put forward by this government and every single plan that my honourable colleague described, they are against. Where is their housing plan, Mr. Speaker?
The member for Flamborough, Glanbrook, Brent North.
Under these Liberals, Canadians are being forced to skip meals to just pay the rent. A new report from Royal LePage shows that 39% of Ontario renters are cutting back on food and essentials just to stay housed. Even the CMHC is waving the white flag, admitting its own housing targets aren't possible under this Liberal government. This is what failure looks like. Unaffordable housing, stalled construction, and Canadians falling further behind. With alarm bells ringing all over the place, when will the Liberals finally admit that their housing plan isn't working?
Good job. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, when you exploit people's hardship and vulnerability for political gain, when you base your political hopes on the failure of the economy, and when you dismiss the potential of Canadian innovation to solve the challenges that we face, as Conservatives do every day in this House, you're not just betting against our government, Mr. Speaker, you're betting against Canadians. On this side of the House, we'll bet on Canadians every single day. Why? Because we know they will overcome the greatest challenges we face.
The member for Yellowhead.
Years of poor forest management contributed to fires that devastated a third of the homes in Jasper last year. Parks Canada red tape, controlled by this Liberal government, is delaying construction of new homes. Their process has just exacerbated the housing crisis in the region. Despite the Liberal government allocating $160 million, their solution seems to be treating Jasperites like inmates and house them in ATCO trailers like a remote work camp. Is this Liberal solution to housing shortages to put people in sea camps for storage?
There you go. The Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, they're now really reaching. They are accusing the government of not living up to its responsibilities for conservation or responsibilities to national parks in this country. This government has prided itself as coming to the aid of communities, whether it be at housing assistance and any other kind of assistance. We've had a devastating wildfire season, provoked in no small part due to the climate change that we're experiencing, Mr. Speaker. This government will continue to respond to Canadians' needs for housing and for good management.
The Deputy.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, it's now been documented by Radio-Canada. In Chaudière-Appalaches, the price of homes has exploded by 46% since 2021. 46%! That's a huge increase since 2021, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't make any sense. I asked a question to the Minister of Housing about the most important program for homes in his department. He wasn't able to answer it, and he didn't even know what the program was. That's really concerning. Mr. Speaker, I'm new here, but I'd like to know, Does the Minister of Housing actually take care of housing? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my colleague mentioned earlier, we have a national strategy for housing. We are going to double the construction of new homes. And to my colleague, we have an agreement, a historic agreement with Quebec on the Housing Accelerator Fund. We've put $900 million into that. Quebec has done the same. There are homes that are being built. There are real people living in those new homes right now. So we are acting. We've already started acting. We will continue to do that. As I said, innovation, Canadian lumber, and Canadian workers. We have a plan, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, once again, empty words, Mr. Speaker. I've been here for 4 weeks, and people have elected us to ask questions, Liberals, to hold them to account for the people of Beauce. They're not answering our questions. They're laughing in our faces. That's a lack of respect. We're trying to be polite. We're trying to be respectful, but they still answer us with the same empty words, Mr. Speaker. It's disappointing. The price of homes continues to go up. The Minister of Housing is supposed to be building more homes. It's easy, Mr. Speaker. Is the Minister of Housing able to do his job, yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Well, I would like to thank my colleague for the question. His questions are pertinent, and our goal is to work with him through, among other things, Build Canada Homes, so that we can help companies in Beauce that are building prefabricated homes and that can help meet the minister's goal and the government's goal for housing. We want to work with them, so it'll be a pleasure for me to work with him. We need to create jobs. We need to build homes.
The member for Prescott, Russell, Cumberland.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, our aerospace industry is an example of Canada's entrepreneurial spirit. The unjustified tariffs are creating uncertainty for our businesses, so it's more important than ever that we support our aerospace sector. Can the Minister of Industry, Science and Innovation please update this House on her visit to the Bourget Air Show, where she represented Canadian industry? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague from Prescott Russell Cumberland for her excellent question and for her excellent work. Canada has great strength when it comes to aerospace, but we need to go even further, Mr. Speaker. We need to do more to help industry, and at the Bourget Air Show, we got good news, an order of 40 Airbus A220 airplanes by Lod Airlines from Poland. Those are airplanes that are going to be built at Mirabel in Quebec. Air France is also buying global airplanes from Bombardier. We're going to create jobs. We're going to continue to strengthen the aerospace sector.
For Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, after a decade of Liberal anti-energy policies that drive out investment and plunge business confidence down, even the Liberal House Leader admits on TV that this government can't get anything built. Despite years of defending Trudeau's actions, Canadians want to see projects growing and energy flowing. But until destructive Liberal laws like C-69 are gone, it's just more empty promises. If the Prime Minister wants Canadians to believe anything he says, then he'll fully repeal anti-energy laws and get pipelines built.
Hear, hear. The Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we will present the members opposite an opportunity to build. We will present the One Canadian Economy bill. We will rapidly advance projects of national interest and build one economy, not 13. The bill will grow the economy and make Canada the strongest economy in the G7. We would hope you'll join us in voting for this.
The Honourable Member for Swift Current, Grasslands, Kindersley.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian farmers work hard to feed the world, but they're taking losses from trade barriers imposed by China. Saskatchewan normally exports close to $1 billion in peas to them, and thanks to an action by the Liberal Prime Minister, our exports are dropping. Saskatchewan farmers have already lost out on half of our pea exports to China, and now there is a 100% tariff on the rest. The Prime Minister promised to be different on trade than Justin Trudeau, so why is he still doing nothing to help our farmers out?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have an immense responsibility to address these challenges. We're in a triangulation trade war with two other countries, Mr. Speaker. We're doing everything possible to keep the lines of communication open, and we'll continue to do that. Mr. Speaker, we're investing in farmers. We're investing in ag stability. We're investing in ag marketing. We're continuing to do everything we can. I had the opportunity to visit the honourable members, the Prairie provinces last weekend to speak firsthand to farmers. We've got some of the best farmers in the world on cutting edge of technology. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Thornhill.
The Iranian regime is collapsing and its thugs are already eyeing Canada. After 10 years of weak Liberal national security laws, this country has become a safe haven for IRGC terrorists. Hundreds live here, they operate here, they fundraise here, they intimidate Canadians here, and they do it all without consequence. I'll ask the Minister how many more terrorists have to come to Canada before they put into law the foreign agents, or before they introduce the foreign registry they put into law last year. How many?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard is a designated terrorist organization. If there are people here who are connected to that terrorist regime, they are here illegally, which means we're going to find them, we're going to arrest them, and we're going to deport them.
The honourable member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is National Indigenous Peoples Day. Every June 21st, Canadians take the time to reflect on our past. We also celebrate the significant contributions of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from coast to coast to coast. After generations of pain and suffering, our country has chosen to deliberately walk on the path of reconciliation. We also must do this together. Can the Indigenous Services Minister reflect on the importance of National Indigenous Peoples Day here in Canada and across Turtle Island?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Pierrefonds-Dollard for this important question. National Indigenous Day is a time for us to celebrate First Nations people, Métis, Inuit, Indigenous communities with each their own culture, identity, and languages. In addition, Mr. Speaker, I am honored to be the first Indigenous minister leading Indigenous services to serve Indigenous people in this community from somebody who understands their reality and can speak with them directly one-on-one with respect to their culture and identity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member of Kitchener South Hespeler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An alarming report in the Canadian Medical Association Journal shows that 1 in 3 Canadian children will be overweight or obese on their 18th birthday. This is not a cosmetic concern. Those children who are obese on their 18th birthday are tragically 3 times less likely to live to see their 30th. Obviously, no child chooses to have this disease. Every case is a social and environmental failure. So I ask the Liberal government, do they have any plan at all to remediate these policy failures for our children in this Parliament?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite. We both sit on the Health Committee, so I look forward to work with him on this very important issue. Mr. Speaker, the health and safety in Canadians is our top priority for this new government, and we will put in every measure possible. We will work with provinces and territories to make sure we have the support for children with diabetes, and I look forward to working with the member opposite on this very important issue.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
We Democrats want to build our economy and create family-sustaining jobs, but it must be done right. Today, the Liberals and Conservatives are ramming Bill C-5 through Parliament with shockingly little debate or public input. This bill creates Henry VIII powers, letting the Prime Minister override laws by decree. It guts environmental protections, undermines workers, and threatens Indigenous rights. This bill will end up in court. Why is this government violating democratic values and risking critical economic projects by tactics from Donald Trump's playbook?
Bravo.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there is lots of support in this country for this brilliant piece of legislation that will create one economy, not 13, will move us towards creating great national projects that will create jobs. And I would invite the leader, I know he will stand with me and with the men and women in Canada's labour movement who have stood up day after day after day after day to support this legislation, to say this will create jobs, this will create opportunity for the skilled trades, this will create a future for me and my children. Will he stand with those unions? Will he stand for...
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, today is World Refugee Day, and it's the triste reality for 43 million people around the world. And yet, the Liberal government is doing the opposite of what should be done by making our by putting the military at our borders like Trump is doing instead of showing solidarity with refugees. Liberal rhetoric is dangerous, but the NDP is clear. Anybody who comes to our borders seeking a safe haven must be heard with respect and humanity. Why is the Prime Minister, who was elected as an anti-Trump, why is he copying Trump's worst ideas and attacking the rights of refugees and asylum seekers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our Safe Borders Act will fight against organized crime, but at the same time, it offers important guarantees. Guarantees which will work well to ensure to make our communities safer, but offer the necessary guarantees to people who are coming to our borders and who have right to respect of their rights.
That is the end of question period. Ceci met fin à la période des questions.
Okay, let's just see if they're going to get to the vote, but we won't stay too long because I don't think they're voting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During question period, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Government Transformation and the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health erroneously referred to something called a new government. And I don't...
That is a matter of debate. Affaire courante. Dépôt de documents.
Routine proceedings, tabling of documents. The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Mr. Hodgson.
Pursuant to Standing Order 32-2 and consistent with the policy on the tabling of treaties in Parliament, I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaty entitled Framework Agreement for International Collaboration on Research and Development of Generation 4 Nuclear Energy Systems, done at Paris on January 29th, 2025.
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance and National Revenue.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 32-2, I have the honor to table in both official languages the 2024-2025 annual report of the Office of the Taxpayers Ombudsman entitled Clearing the Path. Thank you.
I believe that the Parliamentary Secretary of Finance had another tabling he'd like to do as well.
It is true, Mr. Speaker. It is an honor to table in both official languages the 2023-2024 Departmental Results Reports for Finance Canada and the Office of Superintendent of Financial Institutions, the Financial Transactions and Report Analysis Centre of Canada, and the Office of the Auditor General.
Secretary to the Minister of Industry has a tabling.
Why are you tabling the 2023 financial reports in 2025? Shouldn't have those been done last year at like the latest?
And I have the honor to table in both official languages the treaty entitled Final Acts of the World Radio Communication Conference of the International Telecommunication Union, done in Dubai on December 15, 2023.
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, I believe, has a tabling.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 32-2 and consistent with the policy on tabling of treaties in Parliament, I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaty entitled Amendment to Annex 2 of the Rotterdam Convention on the Prior Informed Consent Procedure for Certain Hazardous Chemicals and Pesticides in International Trade, adopted at Geneva between May 1st and 12th, 2023.
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade and to the Secretary of State for International Development.
Thank you, Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 32-2, I have the pleasure...
Okay, so that's pretty much it. I just want to show you guys one thing before we skedaddle here. Where is the projected order of business? This is the projected order of business. They were supposed to do a vote this morning. To be honest, I was watching the House. I didn't see a vote. I could have been making a cup of coffee or something, but from what I could tell, I don't think there was a vote on C5. And as you can see, the projected order of business after question period, which we are on right now, is routine proceedings. Right now, they're tabling documents. So I don't know if they're actually going to get to a vote on C5 after it's been amended today. I think they want to, because then that way it passes, but I think there still needs to be more debate on it because of the amendments proposed by the Conservatives. I could be wrong, but from what I think, it's going to be a next session type of thing.
From the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, yes, known as the Mighty Ogo. The first is a report entitled Canada's Postal Service, a Lifeline for Rural and Remote Communities. And the second is a report titled Renewal of the Parliamentary Budget Officer's Mandate, where the committee recommends the renewal of the mandate for the PBO and also recognizes his service to Canada. Pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests that the government table a comprehensive report to the first report.
For Barrie South Innisfil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I have the honor of rising for what will be a very busy Ethics Committee, I suspect, in the future. But, Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to present in both official languages the following two reports of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics. The first report is entitled Federal Government's Use of Technological Tools Capable of Extracting Personal Data from Mobile Devices and Computers, and the second report entitled Oversight of Social Media Platforms Ensuring Privacy and Safety Online. Pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests that the government table a comprehensive response to each of these two reports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vaudreuil.
In both official languages, the following four reports of the Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure and Communities. The second report entitled The Erie Lake Connector, a project in the best interests of the public. The third report entitled Towards an Accessible Air Transportation in Canada. The fourth report entitled The Role of McKinsey & Company in the Creation and the Beginnings of the Canada Infrastructure Bank. And the fifth report entitled Issues and Opportunities, High-Frequency Rail in the Toronto to Quebec City Corridor. Pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests that the government table a comprehensive response to each of these reports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting reports, again, back to the member for Vaudreuil. So that's it. Introduction of private members' bills. Mrs. Jansen, seconded by Mr. Lawton, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Criminal Code Medical Assistance in Dying. The motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Imagine your son or daughter battling depression for some time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we need to watch any more of this. I don't think they're getting to a vote. The House is clearing out. Someone just said in chat, anyone else's stomach just dropped knowing they did nothing and now they're going on a well-paid vacation. Yep, I'm not happy about it. And like I said just a minute ago there, I very rarely agree with a lot of the stuff that the Liberals do, obviously being a Conservative myself. But Erkin Smith had a good point calling out his own government, the Liberals, saying, why don't they just extend the House for another week or two? I think it should be extended longer, but I agree with the premise that they should be sitting more because they just had an election. You've only sat for 4 weeks, and then now you're going off for 3 months. I get it. There's constituency time. You do need to go and spend some time talking to your constituents, but you don't need 3 months. Like, what are you seeing every single person in the constituency and the constituency over beside you? Like, how many people are you trying to see here? It's a little too long of time. I think they get all this time off in the winter. They get 2 months, or not 2 months. They get 2 or 3 weeks off for Christmas. They get, I think it's 3 weeks, if I remember correctly, because they go off at the end of December, and then they come back at the end of January. So they get like a month off. They get 2 weeks off, 1 week around Remembrance Day. They get 1 week off around Thanksgiving. Like, they get a lot of time off, like more than a teacher does, and I don't understand why now they can't just extend the sitting for at least another 2 weeks. especially because the Liberals have been trying all week to push Bill C5 through. They sat till 1 a.m. on Wednesday. Like, the House sat till 1 a.m. They made the committee go yesterday till, what was it, midnight? Or was that Wednesday? I can't remember. But they've been extending everything to try to get stuff through. I didn't hear any Conservative members complaining about it or suggesting that the period get extended. Many Conservative MPs suggested that the sitting get extended. Pierre said that many times. Brassard said that. Lanceman said that. Garner said that. Cooper said that. Genuis said that. I mean, the list goes on. I can name many Conservative MPs who said they would be happy to sit through the summer. Even in committee the other day, they were talking about sitting during the summer. So, I mean, that's a Conservative chair saying that. Yeah, they did suggest it. They very much did suggest that they were going to be willing to sit through the summer. So it's more, I'm just saying on the Liberals' side, I don't understand why they wouldn't extend it a week or two even, because that's in their interest. It makes no sense for them not to want to push Bill C5 through. So, yeah, I mean, they don't sit again until the 14th of September. 15th. It's a Monday. So pretty much almost 3 months off. It's a lot of time. As I did mention before, there is going to be clips coming out on the channel. I'll still be posting. Live streams will definitely come down. There's not going to be as much live streams. I'll try to get a live in here or there, but this channel will slow down definitely during the summer as Parliament comes to a close for this session. And yeah, I'll try to get clips out, obviously, as often as I can as things happen. Definitely there's going to be a by-election coming up. We know there's going to be definitely media scrums that happen as they do, as, you know, Carney meets with world leaders, et cetera, et cetera. So, committees this summer, yep, hopefully they do a couple committees. I'd be pretty interested to see if... I know Macaulay said he won't call Ogo to sit, but maybe John Brassard will call... the ethics committee to sit, because they do have... Both of those committees have a lot of work to do, so I mean, they should sit during the summer as much as they can. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we're going to call it here, because nothing's really... It's pretty much it. The House is cleared out. They're not getting to a vote on C5, so I'm pretty confident C5 will not get passed through until next session. If I'll cover the by-election, yeah. We'll do a live stream for the by-election. So, yep. Personally, for me, I'm working on a couple other channels as well in the background to try to keep myself busy as well when politics do take a break, and it also gives me a bit of a creative difference and not so much absorbed into Canadian politics, because it can drive one to drink for sure. But yeah, we will call it here. I'll stop yapping, and everybody can go enjoy their day. Everybody can go have a fantastic weekend, hopefully. And definitely at the earliest, we'll see you for the by-election. And if there's any committees, we'll see you live then. But, yeah. 3 months off, man. I hope to see you guys pretty soon, because I do like streaming and stuff. So, cheers, everyone. I appreciate all you guys watching for the 4 weeks that Parliament sat in this session. And, yeah. Have a fantastic summer, guys. See you guys.